Welcome back to the High Vibe Honey podcast, a sanctuary for women who are done performing power and pleasure and are ready to embody it. I'm your host, Katie Rogers, relationship, intimacy, and feminine embodiment coach. And this is the space where we drop the pressure to prove and step into our full spectrum power, feminine, magnetic, and deeply self sourced. Here we have raw, reverent conversations with sacred rebels, thought leaders, and iconic women who are redefining love, leadership, and success on their own terms. You don't have to choose between success and intimacy. You don't have to earn your softness or perform your worthiness. You get to have it all. And this is where we remember how. And today's guest is someone who lives and breathes the bold, magical frequency of feminine leadership. Vanessa Lambert is a visionary entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, founder of the Starseed Collective, and co founder of Be the Wellness. She's known for merging Kundalini activation, the Akashic records, and high frequency business strategy into one of a kind path that empowers spiritual entrepreneurs to ditch the rulebook and lead with radical self expression. Vanessa believes that life and business are art, and she's built a 7+ figure empire by following her desires, listening to her intuition, and trusting her inner guru. Whether she's guiding women through sacred retreats in Egypt and Bali or activating cosmic powerhouses in her Priestess Path mastermind, Vanessa is here to remind us that life can be a dream if you're bold enough to live it. And today we're diving into everything from intuitive empire building to her latest docuseries and mastermind designed to amplify visibility and expression for female entrepreneurs. I know you're going to love where this conversation goes, so let's dive in. Vanessa, it is such a privilege to have you here.
Oh, Katie, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be with you. I'm just like my star sister. I love it.
Yeah, we had the honor of meeting recently at Living Brave Live. And we just had this great moment together where we're making content, just having the most fun. And I was like, Vanessa, I really would love you to come on the podcast and share your energy with everyone. So I've done a little intro, but I would love you to share more about your journey of where you've been through and what magic you're bringing to the world today. So everyone can get to know you a little bit more.
Oh my goodness, isn't it so interesting when we go to tell our stories? Because the truth about our stories is there's so many angles and such a quantum field around who we are and where we've been. And so I think the thing that I would be called to share today is really that, I consider myself a starseed. So where I come from is really from a place of feeling like I'm on planet Earth to support and activate other women in their highest timeline and the support of this planet and the support of the highest good for all. And also have like such a fun time doing it, such a beautiful, expressive, lighthearted, unified way of doing that. And I think that sometimes when we are entrepreneurs or we're quote unquote spiritual entrepreneurs, that sometimes that can get a little heavy and that can feel like we're always, digging out of the shadows. And so for me, I think the path right now and what has been true all along is that we can work really hard. We can dig into the deep stuff that needs work and excavation, but we can also have so much fun and be such light beings and so joyful and so exuberant in our expression and our gifts. And that's what I think I really want people to anchor in with me in the beginning of this chat.
Beautiful. I love this so much. And this journey of following your desires to create what you have created now, building your empire from this space of devotion. And I'm just going to follow what feels good. And I was watching your TEDx talk yesterday, and you're sharing about, yeah, I followed my desires. And to some people, it looked like I was becoming a surf bum.
To quite a few people, actually. Yeah, I haven't been one for rules really since the get-go, and I think I've been kind of rebellious in nature, but not in a place where like I wouldn't consider myself like punk rock. I would consider myself more rebellious in the way that I just have always had a curiosity for why things are the way that they are, why we've accepted certain templates. One of my core like programs, if you will, is F the template. And it's really about building your life as a temple, as something you can be devotional and pour into, and getting out of all these ideologies and all of these things that we've been told are the right way way to do things. And so, yeah, when I was, 19, I said, okay, I guess I'm taking a year off from college and I'm driving to Panama and back and I'm learning how to surf. And my parents were like, what are you doing? Everyone was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm following her, the voice inside that knows what my destiny is.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this so much. This move from between the space of control, and every time I've tried to run my business or operate my life from a space of, okay, what should I be doing? And I'm trying to control the outcome, it never actually works. It's just an illusion. And then when I move into this space of actually trusting the flow and the direction of life and following my desires, and I get these nudges that say, hey, do this, even if it doesn't make sense at all. Now that I'm more like, okay, actually, yeah, I'm going to follow that. I'm going to see what happens. And it always leads me to my higher potential. It always leads to bigger results. So a really beautiful part of my journey has been surrendering and softening out of that masculine control, trying, forcing, proving, and more into that space of desire-led receiving and unfolding and trust.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful, subtle field to work with, right? Because there's all of this energy, so much that is telling us push harder, go harder, work harder. And, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're someone who's not afraid of hard work.
Mm,
Like you wouldn't have come into this world if you didn't have that ability to really like dig in and make things happen to some degree.
yeah.
So I think a lot of times the the other discipline or the other devotion for entrepreneurs is to learn how to soften the edges of it, learn how to flow with it instead of force it. And that has certainly been the case for me. I will make it happen. And I can make it happen,
Yeah.
but that doesn't always yield the highest outcome for myself or for who I'm in service to. So I think
Mm,
that's a huge part of this spiritual journey we call entrepreneurship is learning like what is that push and pull? What is that ebb and flow? Like where's that edge where I let the universe know I'm serious, but I don't force it to perform, on a dime. I don't force it to respond to me in this moment exactly how I expect it. And that's the dance, right?
yeah. And I love this idea of entrepreneurship and our businesses being this sort of temple for our spiritual evolution, and how that can be one of the most powerful journeys that a woman can take is via that route. So could you speak more to that?
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's any more devotional spiritual path than entrepreneurship. I honestly don't, because you meet yourself in every corner of who you are. You meet everything that you feel is a limiting factor. You meet every part of you that is asking to expand, that is asking to forgive, to be in self-love and awareness. I mean, there's no place in yourself that remains unknown when you are an entrepreneur. And so I call myself a spiritual entrepreneur, but I'm like, I think everyone is a spiritual entrepreneur. Like the joke's on me. I'm like, it's almost like saying you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Amazing. Could you share with us a bit more about your journey through that spiritual evolution as well, and more of the through line that comes into your work as well? Because I know, in your mastermind spaces, there is so much more than the business side of it. We have more Kundalini influence and Akashic records. And so could you share more with us about how you bring all of this into your work?
Yeah, I really am a firm believer that Earth is a school, it's a game, it's this format in which we are able to manipulate and kind of pull in different energy fields in order to allow for different outcomes. And it's not necessarily, I use the word manipulate, but I think more it's like play with the field and have fun with the subtle energy and the subtle frequency. And throughout my journey, I've always been, a little bit of a rebel, but I've also been such a seeker. I've always been like, okay, what are the rules of this game? Like, what's the way that you can really get in and master this thing called Earth, this thing called life? And I've always been really, really curious, and that's taken me in many, I say circles and squares around the world. It's taken me into all different kinds of modalities and ceremonies, and just getting really, really curious about, like, what is this format? And how can we be a better player at the game of Earth School, the game of life?
Mhm.
And so for me, Kundalini has been a really beautiful activating force and activating frequency. And through all of the things I've tried in my lifetime, which have been many things, I was raised in Northern California. And so I come from a pretty esoteric kind of hippie background of people doing Reiki and drum circles and having labyrinths in their yard. And like all of that stuff was sort of, the basis of my childhood.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have like one of these kind of normal spiritual awakenings where it's like I hit a certain age and then I went on my spiritual journey. I was kind of born into a community of people, right?
You got a head start on us. Okay, I love this.
I was born into a labyrinth. Let's say that. But no, I do believe, right, there was a destiny path for me to kind of get going on that at a young age. And so, yeah, I took my Reiki certification when I was like 15, or, I did hallucinogenics when I was like 13. I'm not recommending this, by the way. I'm just saying that the destiny line for me to get really curious and to kind of like start to look at the field of the Earth School as a game and as a way that we could have fun and experience ourselves in different levels, came in very early. And so through all of this exploration, when I found Kundalini Yoga, what I realized is that, you know, these people, the people who birthed this lineage, who brought these teachings onto planet Earth, and any of these spiritual esoteric lineages, they all have their backstory and their drama, and there's all these things that you could pick apart any of these lineages. But the truth about Kundalini, the frequency, is that it unlocks more of you. It
Mm.
gets more of your frequency and your embodiment running in your system. And when you are more of you, the earth, the vibration of your life responds to that.
Yeah.
And it's less about you responding to what's coming at you, and instead you creating a vibratory field that says, this is who I am and this is what I'm creating. And then the energy responds to that. And
Mm.
so Kundalini for me has been that frequency, has been that through line, if you will, that the more I practice and the more devotional I am with those teachings and with those practices, the more it all just feels a little bit easier and a little bit more playful and a little bit more fun, and kind of like you're sort of like wink wink, like you sort of feel like you have the keys to the castle. And the things that used to throw you off and that maybe you'd spend a week obsessing about or inverting on, or wondering if you're on the right path, are you doing the right thing? We've all been there, right?
Yes. It's so interesting because, a younger version of me, I was going to say older, when I was a lawyer, and I was like, this is the way to do things. And it was very much in my wounded masculine. It was very much like I was responding to everything outside of me, trying to control, trying to manipulate. And I'm thinking that is the way to do things. And there's no way I would have believed that somebody who speaks as you do and says about this is actually the way to play the game. I'd been like, nah, there's no way she's actually built a 7+ figure empire. Like, I wouldn't believe it. And I would have believed that my way was the correct way of doing things, even though the evidence that I was collecting never never showed that that was the case, right? And
Right.
it's more into this softening to my grounded feminine power, where I am following my desires, where I am realizing that things come to me when I emit the frequency that is a match for what I want, right? And
Yes.
so it's this space of, as you say, your authenticity, who you are, that is your highest frequency. And when you're playing this game of like, let me prove, let me bargain for and beg for and suffer for and do all of these things, and let me mold myself to trying to get the thing that I want, it's a very weak frequency and you can't pull from that space. And then, as you say, when it's like, oh, I know who I am and I'm embodying more of that, and then things flow to me, And it's like now I'm really at this place. I'm like, oh, I'm actually seeing this work now. Oh, this is way nicer.
Like the total wink from the universe, right? It's like,
Yes.
yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and it really
Yeah, and I
feels that
think,
way.
the truth is, I actually think any way that you wholeheartedly believe can work. If masculine energy and that kind of real discipline and hard edge, like if that's your superpower and that's where you feel at home and powerfully activated, I think that could work as well. I think the beautiful thing, and what I've loved about Kundalini yoga is that it just gives you permission to be who you really are and to
Mhm.
run those codes and to stop trying to morph into some other shape that you aren't. And
Yes.
and so it's like there's no shame for anyone that goes, I love hard edge discipline, get in there and kick butt. I'm like, good for you. I get it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But if there's a part of you that's like, that is so against the vibration, the nature of my soul, and I
Mm,
feel forced to do that,
yeah.
it's never going to work, right?
Totally. And I want to kind of distinguish between like masculine and feminine. It's not good or bad. And we have both. It's a divine union of both. And within both, there's also our wounded masculine and there's also more of our masculine power, right?
Yeah.
So it's the space that you're moving from has got to feel good to you. Because
Yeah.
if you're like, no, masculine for me equals hustle, proving, struggle, suffer, burnout, then that's not actually the space of you're not in your gifts at that point. So yeah, I totally agree. We need to have both, and we have this beautiful union of it. And whichever space you're moving from, we could very much move from a wounded feminine space as well, which equally does not is not magnetic and doesn't pull the results that we're speaking of. So yeah, I love that you touched on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that's actually the path of the yogi. The path of the yogi is neutrality. It's when you actually honor the masculine and the feminine, the negative and the positive, and you move into that space, that 0 point, that shunya state, that space that honors all of it, right? And I think
Mm,
that that's, again, another reason I've loved the Kundalini yoga is that it allows all of it to be present and real, and for you to just kind of pull out the pieces that need to be more present for you in the moment for the job, the task at hand, if you will. So, yeah, Kundalini yoga has been, it's been a love affair for almost 2 decades now. And I'm just really, really grateful for those teachings and for my teacher, Guru Jagat, who passed in 2021 at a very young age suddenly. I feel really blessed. I got her as that beautiful guide and that spirit that is still guiding me really from beyond in those teachings and in that vibrational field.
yeah, so beautiful. I saw your stories on this recently as well. And they were very touching, which got me interested in, okay, tell me more about how this Kundalini is pulling into your work. And
Yeah.
something else that actually I was first introduced to your work through our mastermind when you won the best of your category and you shared an Akashic record. Um, would you call it an activation or
Yeah, I think in activation, yeah, it's a good way. We were activating our medicine woman millionaire identity. Yeah.
yeah. And this is one of the first times I've really been introduced to the work of Akashic Records. So, can you share a bit more about that, about what it is and how that feeds into your work too?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that Kundalini yoga and the Akashic field have really become my two kind of go-to frequencies, modalities, you could say, over the last couple of years, because it really is, both of them are all about you. They're all about your frequency. And I think that one thing I learned early on is that when you outsource your power, when we're in a mastermind and we love to learn from other women and be inspired by other artists, as our mentor Shoshana would say. But ultimately, it's about pulling through our own frequency and turning that vibration up, turning the volume up on that. And that's really what the Akashic records are. They're the records of your soul. It's the records of everything that is you from, the past, present, and future. And the idea really with the Akashic records is that it's the timeless state of who you are at a soul level. And so when you tap into the Akashic field, the Akashic energy, you're tapping into the limitlessness of you and all your potentiality. And so it's kind of like, if you were like in one of those games where you could like swipe through and like grab an identity, like, oh, that's the player I want to be. You can
Yeah.
kind of pull down those qualities that maybe you feel like you're ready to embody, or you're ready to feel, or you're ready to feature in yourself.
Mm.
And also, it's a great place for just support and counsel. When I'm in the Akashic field, even though it is a connection to my soul's records, I also feel a direct access to ancient ones, teachers, masters, ancestors, all the subtle field energy, all the frequency that's just pouring in to love me and support me. And the Akash it's a very ancient field, and Nikola Tesla tapped into this Akashic field. All kinds of people throughout the ages, obviously, in the Upanishads and all of these ancient scriptures that talked about the Akashic field, it really is almost this subtle energy that surrounds us. And so when you can tap into that and pull that through, in the same way Kundalini yoga brings more of your energy online, I feel the Akashic records do as well.
It's so beautiful and so interesting as well, because I think about how we can be so distracted by our human senses and the things that are so distracting to us, I suppose, in the 3D, and we can really buy into this misunderstanding that that is what I'm capable of, that is how I experience life. And when you tap into something that is more of the, as show says, the nonsense, the quantum nonsense, it's like that is actually the space where there is infinite potential, where I realize that I am actually everything, and then I can choose what I want to, as you say, like grab hold of and embody more of and activate more of. So then you're again, instead of responding to your external world, it's like everything can respond to me because I've created the dynamic that allows for this to flow through.
Yeah, and I think that we're becoming more and more masterful at this. These are relatively new concepts. And I think in our world, where we're around a lot of women who are speaking this language and activating in this way, we can think that it's commonplace. But we are actually, part of the starseed idea and identity is that we're the ones that are seeding these concepts and pulling them down onto planet Earth. So not only are we saying, the field reacts to me, I am the force that, the energy responds to, we're also planting that in the collective consciousness as true.
Yeah.
So we are creating that as real by embodying it as real. And
Yes.
that to me is like, it's such an exciting time because we're inventing reality, we're inventing truth, we're changing the game by our directive and planting in these codes and these frequencies, and therefore it is becoming true.
Oh, I love this so much. And this idea of planting seeds, sometimes, we're like, I want to build a forest, I want to grow a forest. And we don't realize we are growing it because we are planting all these seeds. And you look back and you see all of this beauty and everything that you've created through all of the steps that you've taken. I love talking to you. It makes you feel so full of potential and so inspired. So thank you for your activations.
Mm, well, it's like really says something about these spaces when we come together. We're doing a podcast, but really we're hosting a ceremony, right?
Yeah.
We're creating a ceremonial space. We're creating an energy field for the women, the people, whoever comes in and taps into this, to plant these seeds in their heart and to know, like, oh, I agree with that. I feel that way. I'm going to invest in that ideology. I'm going to embody that ideology too. And the more of us that are investing in it, it's like that's where the light comes on. And this becomes this new light code that we embody. And it is really beautiful. It's a very miraculous time that we're in.
Yeah. I just love how you're articulating all this. You have such a beautiful way with language.
Oh, thank you. Right
And
back at
it's
you.
landing. I'm like, yep, yep, yep. And sometimes you hear things and then you hear it again in a new way and you're like, oh, I feel like I understand this in a more at a deeper level now.
Yeah, it's funny. We were watching this documentary last night about some of these more esoteric concepts, and I turned to my husband and I said, "Words just don't really do it, do they? Like,
Yeah.
some of this is so hard to articulate." And
Yeah.
so I think what you're speaking to, and what I would hope women understand, is that yes, it's the words, but more importantly, it's the field of vibration that you and I
Mm,
are creating right now and emanating out into the subtle energy. And that's actually more powerful than the words themselves. The
mm,
words they can only get so close to the truth of what this thing is that we're tapping into. But the vibration, the emanation that comes out from the field, that's where it really locks in.
Mhm. Beautiful. And it's something that you feel so much more fully too. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I feel
No,
like we just went down a little rabbit hole. Like we got almost
I
like,
know. I'm like,
woo!
also, what's this documentary? I want to know more about that.
Oh, yes. Let's speaking of light codes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been running retreats, events all over the world for the last 13 years. We were sharing right before we went live. I just got back from a 2-week event in Africa where my husband and I led a group of 20 people all through the Masai Mara and into Uganda, trekking with gorillas and just, giraffe manor,
Yeah.
the whole 5D animal kingdom experience. And one of the things that I realized actually after we left Living Brave Live was just how much experience I have in creating those kind of containers that really shift somebody energetically when
Mm.
they come into this, we call it a retreat, but really it's a portal for activation.
Yeah.
We're really going to Africa and we're getting the codes from the land, from the animals, from, all of the elemental beings that are in that field. And
Mm.
so when I started thinking about bringing this group of women to Brazil, I was like, I actually want to start documenting this thing that occurs, because I've been witnessing it for the last 13 plus years. And I realized I want to start telling the story of that transformation, of that activation. And particularly when it comes to Brazil, I'm taking a group of women to the Carnival experience, which I am like picturing you there with me on
Yes.
stage.
I think my booty was meant to be in Rio Carnival.
It was meant for Brazil. But Brazil, the Carnival experience, I went for the first time in 2014, and I was just blown away by the vibration, by the
Yeah.
potency, by just the beam of light that's coming out of the field from the Brazilian people, from the music, from just the way the infrastructure of that event is held.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is such a perfect place to really tell the story of what it means for a woman to prepare for this level of visibility, right?
Mm.
To go on stage and perform in front of 90,000 people. And, not just like perform in front of 90,000 people, hold the beam of frequency that is pulsing through that event. That requires that you get some architecture going on to hold that amount of light, that amount of information. And
Yeah.
so I just thought this would be such a cool opportunity to tell the story of what it means to step into that level of visibility and to create this kind of docu-series following women through that experience all the way to the pinnacle of actually performing and then, beyond. And also, just another example of kind of what the Kundalini teachings tell us, which is, be more of you, run more of you, tell that story, be that thing, and then see how the field responds to you. And so, as a byproduct of creating this, it's like, well, let's create these beautiful assets that tell the story of you and your passion and your magic and who you are and what you stand for and what you create, and just allow that story to be the bedrock in which more can be attracted to you. And
Yeah.
I want hope, like I will hope that this finds its way to a network, it finds its way to, a bigger platform, but that doesn't even matter to me as much as the fact that we just tell the story and we
Mhm.
approach it from that aspect, and then we allow the magic to rise to meet us.
So beautiful. I had Helen on the podcast talking about Rio Carnival, and
Yeah,
it's, yeah, we love Helen.
she's
And when she was
amazing.
sharing about it and the transmission of being within that space of being part of holding that and being part of that frequency shift is, I was like, okay, this is a bucket list item for me. This is something I absolutely just know is meant for me. I want to get involved with. So can you
Yes.
share more about the how people can get involved and come along with you on this sort of sacred travel expansion?
Yeah, so if they want to be a part of the Brazil experience, and yes, Helen is my partner there, and if you've had her on the podcast, then everyone knows she's just amazing and such a bright light. But if you're interested in this particular experience, there's an application process just to get to know you and what you're up to, and kind of see what the through line is that we would pull through, and round out the people that are going to be participating. And then otherwise, I create travel events all over the world. And I think that this is going to be the first in a series of these more docuseries style events. I don't know what this is turning into, but obviously, you know how this is, right? The Dharma is born through you and you just follow
Mhm.
it. And so we're in this birthing process of this being the first. And to me, I think this is like, I was sharing this with some of the women in my mastermind because, a few of them have applied to come. And I'm like, if you guys haven't applied for this, you just aren't thinking about it like enough. You're not
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
like what a huge opportunity this is. And I was sort of joking with them about it because I was like, you have no idea what is going to come from just the activation, not even, like regardless of the actual document and the docu-series and all that. I'm like, just the activation itself is so huge and potent. So yeah, bottom line, there's an application, and if you're interested, yeah, reach out to me.
Okay, so you can find Vanessa on Instagram at starseed.collective, and I'm guessing the application is there. People can find it.
Yeah, if they actually just use the keyword Empress, it
Mhm.
will give them the link and they can apply and see all the details and everything. So they can just DM Empress or just reach out to me and I'll get it to you.
Yeah, stunning. And if somebody is serious about building their next level, becoming more comfortable with visibility is just such a no-brainer for the expansion. Can you speak more to the visibility piece?
Well, I think this is something that really came out of Living Brave Live is I realized, and I told this story recently on my Instagram that my husband and I were under contract with the production company for a year. And they were pitching us to all these networks and, like, are we going to get a TV show? Are we going to, like, is it going to be like a YouTube series? I mean, for a year, all these different things of like, this might happen and that might happen. And they were pitching all these different concepts. And, over the course of the year, like nothing actually firmly took place. But what I realized is that, you know, without visibility, our message, our brand only goes so far. You might have the most potent teachings, the most incredible activations, whatever it is that your magic is. But if nobody knows about it, then that's a real problem.
Yeah, you don't want to be the internet's best kept secret.
It's a real bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
And so I left Living Brave Live just thinking, I'm going to take this visibility thing way more serious. Like,
Mm.
almost make it the top priority for myself, for my mastermind, for my students, for everybody that's in my field, because we have to have eyes on our brand. This is just a necessity. And if we don't have this top of funnel kind of thing happening, then, we don't have a business, right? We don't have a movement. Or at least we don't have a movement that anyone knows about. So yeah, so leaving Living Brave Live, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just really, really lean into this aspect and go all the way with it.
I love that. And do you have any like tools or mantras or practices that you're anchoring into at the moment around visibility or anything else that you want to share with us?
You know, part of Kundalini is that there's 5 aspects. There's meditation, mantra, pranayam, asana, and mudra. So those are the 5 aspects. But the mantra is one of the most powerful aspects because what it does is it gets you running more of your sound current through your cells, through the vibration of your sound, through your body, and through your aura. And so I think one of the most powerful things you can do to become more comfortable with visibility is chant to yourself. And obviously, in the Kundalini yogic traditions, we have specific mantras. But honestly, even singing to yourself, talking to yourself, your soul and your energy field loves the sound of your voice more than anything else. And if you're
Wow.
the kind of person who's like, oh, I hate hearing myself, or I don't like the sound of my voice, that's just because there's a disconnect between who you are and how you're presenting. And so, actually, by running more of your sound, singing songs, mantra, just literally running more of your sound through your field, you'll become more comfortable with yourself, and therefore you'll be more comfortable with people seeing you. So sing to yourself, chant mantra, whatever it is. You know, a podcast actually is really amazing. My husband and I ran a podcast for 6 years, and you get used to your voice and you train
Yeah.
like listening to yourself. Those are really powerful tools to increase your confidence and your competence in yourself.
I had to listen to some of your podcast episodes actually. You've had some incredible guests on there too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a really fun run. We had just such a great time. 6 years, right? Like I think there's
Yeah.
230, 50 episodes, something. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot. Yeah.
It's Be the Wellness if anyone wants to go and check that out as well. And yeah, it's so interesting when because also a yoga teacher. I think a lot of us come through this as our sort of spiritual gateway,
Yeah.
if you like. And when I was practicing before that, there's some practices where you are removing a lot of the senses and feeling into the vibration of your voice and of sound. And when I first stepped into that practice, I found it very uncomfortable because I had a lot of projected judgment around how I sounded, what other people would think. And when I sort of let go of that, of okay, the goal actually isn't for this to sound beautiful or to look beautiful, but the goal is how is this feeling? This is a vibration that is cleansing my aura and creating this kind of psychic protection. So if I can feel into it from that way and enjoy the vibration, and wow, when you experience it in that way, it was completely different, and
Mm.
experiencing the vibration of my own voice in collaboration with other voices around me, that was a feeling of power, like connection and community, like I never had experience. But yeah, I love joining singing circles now. I love kirtan, and I think it's, yeah, connecting to your voice is a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I really do because I feel like so many people, when they first come in, especially in Kundalini yoga, you
Mm.
start with an opening mantra with Om Namo Guru Dev Namo, and you see women, they're kind of like, they're like not really saying it. They're just sort of mouthing it, and then,
Yeah.
a month or two later, they're like, oh, they're just
Yeah.
belting it out, and it's just so cool because you can
Yeah.
see the transformation from, I'm a little uncomfortable in myself to like, here I am and here's my voice. And it
Mm.
really is, I think it's one of the most powerful tools we have on the planet.
Totally. Yeah, really resonate with that as when I was teaching Ashtanga and Dharma and doing the opening and closing mantras and being the one to lead that as well. So having my voice be the loudest and the strongest to sort of activate for other people as well. That that really did enhance my confidence a lot. So yeah.
In Ashtanga, I mean, oh, that's just such a deep practice too. Such a like, you got to hold it, right? Quite literally.
Yeah, yeah, it's an intense experience. It was a
No,
big part of my life, yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah, actually, Guru Jagat, my teacher, came from Ashtanga before Kundalini. So, yeah, it's a very powerful practice.
Totally. Again, it's a portal in itself.
Yes.
I would love to know more from you about what is really activating you right now. What are you really feeling obsessed with or excited by?
Yeah, it's so funny because I actually have a renewed obsession with Kundalini yoga. It's funny how like you have these waves and dips where you're like really, really in. And I've been
Mm.
teaching for a long time and participating for a long time. And I think sometimes you're on the gas and sometimes you're more like neutral space. But I've had a recent like resurgence of just crazy devotion to it. But and I think this is kind of like part and parcel with the other thing that I've been really obsessed with lately is just really, really trying to understand like what is that thing that makes the difference for people that really flips the switch from that ideology and that, construct of not believing that they have everything that they could ever want at their fingertips, that they are the embodiment of truth, of God source, of full potentiality. And like, what is that thing, that trigger that helps pull somebody into the knowingness of that? And for me, I think that's always the thing that I'm just like trying to get at. And sometimes it's through Kundalini yoga, sometimes it's through the Akashic field, sometimes it's through the events and the big bold frequencies that we're creating with our experiences. And then sometimes it's talking about aliens.
Yes.
And like reminding people that, oh, wait, maybe we're not the only ones here. And, maybe there's just a whole other thing at play that we should zoom out and think about. And all of it to me is always just like this dance of like, how can I
Mm.
come at it? What angle can I come at this thing from to help somebody have that, oh my God moment? Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, it's none of it is what I thought it was. And actually, it's all this instead. And like, to me, that's the moment I'm always like a heat-seeking missile for. I'm like, how do we get to that moment? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm obsessed with.
So beautiful. This is like the most magical part of my journey, I think. And sometimes, like, you go through phases where you forget and then you remember and you're like, oh, silly me, I forgot how much power I have. Silly me, I forgot that this thing is not that deep.
Totally. And like just that's why I love fun and I love laughter and I love joy
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we can get so serious about ourselves and our
Yeah.
journey and our problems and our challenges and I love all of that. Don't get me wrong, like it's all so beautiful, but I also
Yeah.
think that a huge part of this is like zoom out and remember it's just a game. Like
Yeah.
this too shall pass. Like all of this is just playing out as a big, like, it's an unfolding as the drama of your life. So make sure you're casting yourself in the character you want to play because it
Mm.
really is that. And have fun with it, have joy with it, and have a lightness of being with it all.
I love this. So if you take anything from this episode, have fun, have lightness, follow your desires, even if it doesn't make sense. And yeah, let this experience of life be one that lights your soul on fire, that you would get to the end of and share with someone like, that was a fun ride.
Like high fives all around at the end, right?
Exactly, exactly. Otherwise, what is the point?
And it kind of
Ah,
brings me back to that moment we had at Living Brave, right? Where it was like all of us women were there and we just set up the camera and we just danced and we walked and we were laughing. And
yeah,
like in the end, that's all it ever is. It's
yeah.
just what are you choosing to create in this moment? Are you choosing to create, fun and joy and exuberance? Are you
Mm.
choosing to create something else? And all of it is welcome. All of it is potential and all of it is here for your own betterment and learning, but also like you do get to choose.
Yeah, you do. You totally do get to choose. And as you say, being around the frequency of other people who are holding the higher field of the thing that you want to tap into more of is such a powerful way for you to calibrate to that, for you to attune to that, for you to go deeper into that. So even the fact that you're here and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, yes, I want to calibrate to this way of thinking or this frequency, you're already doing it, and putting yourself in the rooms and the spaces where you can expand more into that as well is going to be extremely powerful. So, Vanessa, on that note, I know everyone is going to be obsessed with you. They're all going to know where to find you, what you've got coming up. So, can you share a little bit more with us on that?
Yeah, so Collective on Instagram is kind of my main hub. Be the Wellness is my business with my husband. That's our travel business. And B is spelled like a honeybee, so it's Be the Wellness. And oh gosh, Brazil is coming up. I'm going to do a bigger women's event in Miami next summer, so really excited to announce that soon. We're going to be in Japan and then Patagonia next year. So like just so many ways to get in. And if you want to connect, just reach out on Instagram and say hi, and we'll start there.
So beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vanessa. This was such a beautiful and powerful conversation. And I'm so grateful for you coming on and bringing your cosmic magic, your truth, your light, and just your full expression here today.
Thank you. And I actually want to just say it's so funny because you're like, I invited you on the podcast. And actually, you were like, do you ever do podcasts? And I was like, are you inviting me on? So I kind of invited myself.
I'm like, yes, please come.
So thank you for accepting my invitation to myself. But no, truly, thank you so much because
Yeah.
you're just such a lovely, beautiful, bright, shining beam of just radiance. And I'm just so grateful to be here and to witness you and all that you're up to. So thank you.
Yeah, I love you so much.
I love you. We're gonna go get a room now.
Yep, and it'll be in Brazil, so we'll see you
Yes,
there.
exactly.
And if you're listening to this and you're feeling activated or inspired by this episode, please do share on Instagram. We love hearing what your biggest takeaways are. And if you want to leave a review for this podcast as well, drop me a screenshot of it and I will send you my favorite meditation as a thank you on activating your miracle mindset. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Remember, you are the miracle, you are the masterpiece, and the world is waiting for your magic.